I love video games, and I've been playing them for over 35 years old. And yes, I am that old. From experiences that I had growing up with the original NES to playing today on the Nintendo Switch, the PS5, Steam Deck, I game in a number of different ways. With that said, though, I feel it's important to know the whole how the donuts are made, as it were. And I feel really understanding the many ways that it's often so difficult to make these games should be understood and appreciated. If I said the names of John Romero, Ed Boon, or Shigeru Miyamoto, it's possible old dogs such as myself may recognize them from, just being a gamer in the 80s and 90s. Their efforts as pioneers of the gaming industry for Doom, Mortal Kombat, and Super Mario, respectively, get a lot of attention. Yet it's very possible that gamers in my same age bracket may still not know these individuals, or even current and prolific minds of today like Todd Howard, Sven Vincke, or Hideo Kojima. Think Skyrim, Baldur's Gate 3, and Jeff Keighley's best friend and mind behind Death Stranding. I want to get attention on this and really just show some appreciation to the developers of the many video games that I love and play, and especially the hundreds and hundreds of games that I don't play. And while you're here, don't forget to like or dislike the video, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. But while games are already hard to develop, the video game industry itself was steeped in peril in 2023, especially, with little sign of that easing up. But let's focus on the former. Let's focus on the difficulties in general for the video gaming industry, and with an important note on my end. I am not a video game developer myself. I've done a very small bit of NES ROM modding and Doom 2 editing back in my teen years, but really nothing more beyond that. One of my friends that I do the Inferno cast with, available both here on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcast viewing, his name is Astromedes. He has experience coding and developing games, and I've listened to him tell me how some of the issues that he's had. And most importantly, I stay up to date on the comings and goings of the video game industry as a whole, and thanks again to the efforts of other YouTubers such as Spawnwave, as well as reading some of the history of development of video games from excellent journalists like Jason Schreier of the Bloomberg News and Gene Park of Washington Post. Schreier himself has written 2 excellent books about what it's like to develop video games, and these are great. I absolutely recommend these, but it really only shines a light on the Western game development scene. I feel the Eastern and Japanese game dev scene still kind of remains somewhat nebulous even to this day. With all that said, I've learned just how video games are difficult to develop for. My own professional experience has taught me that leading and being part of projects often see the goal lines themselves shift and change, and video games have this and much more. Devs are often at the whims of their corporate overlords and when to deliver games, which more often than not results in whole teams experiencing crunch. Crunch, of course, is when many, if not all, of the team work 50, 60, 70 plus hour work weeks right before a deadline to submit a deliverable. And the problem with this is even when they successfully turn in a product, there's no guarantee of employment after shipping a game. Sure, maybe for teams where there are annual iterative titles like Call of Duty, but even that franchise often sees personnel being brought in from other teams. And there's no guarantee when that team is done helping, when they'll go back to a previous project, or really anything at all. On the opposite spectrum is the indie scene, where there are smaller teams working to put together a game, often with no guarantee they'll find a wider audience or success with their final product. There are games like Axiom Verge, Stardew Valley, and Undertale that were in development for years and years by a single person, respectively. And this is such an impressive effort. And just a huge thank you to Tom Happ, Eric Baroni, and Toby Fox for literally single-handedly creating these masterpieces, respectively. Now, again, with all that said, imagine all of those challenges that I just mentioned still being there, but with a lot more difficulty unique to the last couple years, especially 2023. One of the biggest headlines that we saw in 2023 repeated throughout the year surrounds one word: layoffs. So many companies were impacted with layoffs. EA, Epic, Ubisoft, CD Projekt Red, Meta, Unity, Bungie, and so many more. I personally was impacted by layoffs last year in 2023 as part of a tech company, and let me tell you, they stink. Companies often found themselves overstaffed, especially after the event that rhymes with no kid. But specifically with video game companies, projects were often cut back, scaled down, or even just canceled outright. Another challenge more unique to times today than before are really ransomware attacks that hit these video game companies. Hackers and other such actors often find their way into game companies via malware installed into company computers through like phishing emails and phishing attempts and other such things, where they then pull critical data and hold these game companies ransom with said data. One of the most recent examples of this is the Insomniac ransomware attack of December 2023, which resulted in the next 10 years worth of games that they had planned just going out in the open, just being released to the general public. These attacks are often demoralizing to the devs themselves, as they often see the early efforts of what they've put into the games being paraded in front of the general public for all to see, when they're often in such an early state of development. This happened back also with a very early build of GTA 6, where screenshots and footage had leaked out and, of course, didn't really look all that great. And heck, of course, even the trailer for GTA 6 had gotten out and leaked a day early, and so Rockstar Games and Take-Two had to just release it a day earlier, of course, for their efforts. The other scary part of these attacks are not, of course, only the project details, but the HR and personal information of the employees for the companies themselves that are taken, and the customer information that these companies have, like credit cards, names, addresses, and the like. One last aspect that impacts more us, the consumers, and that, of course, is the increased cost and scale to develop video games. I've been seeing articles about Sony and Rockstar Games rumored to sell their video games in the future for anywhere from like $80 to $100. This hurts many more of us to hear, especially because we've felt the pinch from cost increasing from $60 to $70 in the last couple of years. And that, of course, it really has occurred from the jump from the PS4 to PS5 or Xbox One to the series of consoles. These costs increasing is, again, due to the size of the games themselves increasing, especially with the AAA companies. The high level of detail many of these games have, they all come at a cost, and this often means larger teams of devs to put these games together, and they have to pass that cost on to us, the consumer. And it hurts us, but it's just kind of the cost of doing business. With all that said, again, I just want to point out to y'all what I've seen as a tough time for the many different video game developers, both in the larger past as well as, more recently. Little knowledge and a lot of appreciation goes a long way, and surprisingly, a lot of these devs often lurk in social media outlets online to view what we, the consumers, think of their video games. There's not much that again, said consumers can do to really help, although, again, I firmly believe a little appreciation and understanding goes a long way. And it is a game that you're looking forward to getting delayed, or do you hear that sort of announcement? Hey, look at it positively, that the devs are being given the gift of time to make the game even better for you once you finally get your hands on it. What was a game that you're looking forward to finally coming out, but it just didn't live to your standards? Remember that it was made by real people that could have been facing real issues that impeded their development or prevented them from providing a game that they wanted to provide us. To that end, I really recommend the Matt McMuscle's YouTube channel for the What Happened series, because he gives a really good third-party look on a lot of these games where maybe they were good efforts, that they were good games, but they had a tumultuous developing cycle, or maybe they were just, you know, really bad games, and you really kind of want to know what happened on the inside. And to this latter end, it's often you got a really good set of developers or team, but they're being driven by money-hungry corporate overlords or really crazy circumstances that you just couldn't believe. I definitely recommend checking out that series as well. And again, overall, I'm just not saying, you know, to always come to their defense, as there are times where we have to hold these devs accountable to a certain set of standards. But again, a little empathy goes a long way. But I definitely want to know what you think, though. Let me know in the comments section below, because I'm curious of what you think about the overall difficulties devs go through when making games, especially in the last couple of years. Also, were there any underdog teams that you'd rooted for during their time developing a game that you were looking at or looking for? Let me know. I'd really be interested in having a dialogue with all y'all about just the overall difficulties that the devs have. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.